I settled into my new job as a babysitter, eager to earn some extra cash. The Johnsons had a beautiful home, filled with vibrant colors and playful decor. But it was the large clown doll in the corner of the living room that caught my attention. Standing nearly 4 feet tall, it wore a garish costume of bright red, blue, and yellow, and its painted smile sent a shiver down my spine. "Isn't he adorable?" Mrs. Johnson said, noticing my lingering gaze. "That's Chuckles. He's been in the family for generations." I forced a smile, though my stomach churned. There was something about the doll that felt off, almost sinister. After the parents left for their night out, I settled on the couch with the 2 kids, hoping to distract myself from Chuckles. We watched cartoons, laughter filling the air, but as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that Chuckles was watching me. "Can we play hide and seek?" one of the kids asked, their eyes sparkling with excitement. "Sure, you count and I'll hide," I replied, trying to ignore the nagging feeling in the back of my mind. As the children counted, I ducked into a nearby closet, squeezing into the cramped space. The air was dark and musty, and I felt a wave of discomfort wash over me. The muffled sounds of their giggles faded, replaced by the thumping of my heart. Suddenly I heard a noise from the living room, a faint rustling sound. Had Chuckles moved? Pushing the thought aside, I focused on the game, but when the kids found me, they looked pale. "Samantha, the clown, he's not in the corner anymore," one of them whispered, eyes wide with fear. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked, emerging from the closet. "Where is he?" "I don't know," the other child replied, trembling. "He was just standing there, and now he's gone." Panic surged in my chest. "Stay here," I instructed, trying to sound calm. I peered into the living room, scanning the shadows for any sign of Chuckles. The air felt heavy, oppressive. Just then, I heard a creaking sound from behind me. I spun around, my breath hitching. Chuckles was standing in the doorway, his painted grin more sinister than before. For a moment, it felt like his eyes were locked onto mine, piercing and unblinking. "Guys!" I yelled, retreating slowly. "Get behind me!" The children scrambled to my side, their faces etched with fear, but before I could react, the doll moved, lumbering forward as if it were alive. My instincts kicked in, and I grabbed a nearby lamp, ready to defend the kids. "Stay back!" I shouted, raising the lamp like a weapon. But Chuckles didn't stop. He took another step closer, his smile grotesque, stretching wider. In that moment, the lights flickered, plunging us into darkness. My heart raced as I swung the lamp, missing as the doll lunged forward. I could feel cold, plastic fingers grasping at me, and I cried out, shoving the lamp into the doll's chest. It toppled backward with a thud, but I knew it wouldn't be enough. "Run!" I screamed at the kids, pushing them toward the front door. They bolted past me, but as I turned to follow, I felt a grip on my ankle. Looking down, I saw Chuckles pulling himself back up, the painted smile now twisted into something monstrous. Panic surged through me as I kicked free and sprinted after the children. We reached the front door, and I fumbled with the lock, praying it would turn. Behind me, I could hear the soft padding of the doll's movements, relentless and chilling. Finally, the door clicked open, and we tumbled out into the night. "Call the police!" I yelled, pulling out my phone. But as I turned to look back, I realized Chuckles was no longer there. The night felt still, almost too quiet. When the police arrived, they searched the house but found no sign of the doll. It was as if Chuckles had vanished into thin air. The Johnsons returned, confused by the chaos, and I explained what had happened. "That doll has been a part of our family for years," Mrs. Johnson said, a frown creasing her brow. "It can't move on its own." But I knew better. As I left the house, I glanced back at the living room window. There, behind the curtains, I swore I could see the outline of Chuckles, watching, waiting. The laughter of children echoed in my mind, mingling with the sinister grin of the clown. My pulse quickened as I got into my car, thoughts racing. What if I hadn't been able to protect the kids? The weight of the encounter pressed down on me, a suffocating dread that refused to let go. Driving home, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me. I glanced in the rearview mirror more than once, half expecting to see Chuckles grinning back, his painted smile a chilling reminder of what had just happened. Later that night, as I lay in bed, the image of the clown doll haunted me. I tried to tell myself it was just a toy, nothing more than a relic of childhood. But the way it had moved, the way it had looked at me, no, it felt all too real. Sleep eluded me, the shadows in my room twisting into grotesque shapes. Just as I began to drift off, a soft creaking noise pulled me back to consciousness. My heart raced. I held my breath, listening intently. Then I heard it, a faint giggle, followed by the unmistakable sound of shuffling. My blood ran cold. I crept to the door, heart pounding in my chest, and peeked out into the hallway. It was dark, but I swore I could see a shape at the end, just beyond the light. My pulse quickened as I took a step forward, then froze. The unmistakable outline of Chuckles stood there, backlit by the dim light of the street lamp outside. He was just standing there watching. I stumbled back, scrambling for my phone to call for help. But before I could dial, the lights flickered and went out completely, plunging me into darkness. The giggles grew louder, echoing through the empty house. With a surge of adrenaline, I ran for the front door, desperately fumbling for the lock. But as I turned the handle, I felt a cold hand grasp my shoulder. I screamed, spinning around to face the thing I had feared all night. Chuckles stood there, closer than ever, his painted grin now twisted into a horrifying sneer. The laughter of the children morphed into something menacing, and I realized with dawning horror that I was not just being watched, I was being hunted. As I finally broke free and burst outside into the night, I knew I hadn't escaped the terror of Chuckles. The laughter still echoed in my ears, a haunting reminder that some toys are not meant to be played with, and some nightmares never truly end.